First at 5. From the University of Florida's College of Journalism and Communications, you're watching WUFT News.
Last night, the GOP took to the stage at the University of Miami for the final debate before the Florida primary.
And the homeless might soon be affected by some changes that could be coming to local parks, but we begin tonight with breaking news out of Gainesville. Good evening. It's March 11th. I'm Connor Ingalls.
And I'm Marie Ettinger. Thanks for joining us. Gainesville Fire Rescue has been responding to a crash at the intersection of South Main Street and Williston Road. A tan Honda was sitting on South Main Street waiting for traffic to clear before entering the intersection of Williston Road. Then a white Lexus rear-ended the Honda, pushing it into the intersection. A white truck was traveling west on Williston Road and struck the Honda, pushing it into the roadway and causing a massive collision. 3 people are in critical condition while 2 others suffer from minor injuries. The intersection will be closed until at least 6 o'clock tonight while investigators continue their investigation.
Gainesville City officials are considering re-implementing a trespass warning at all local parks that would ban certain offenders for 90 days after they were arrested.
A former trespass warning was killed in 2012 because the park ban was permanent and the wording of the trespass ban was legally vague. Joey Schatt joins us now in the studio with more. Joey, there were a lot of complaints going on. What did you hear today?
Well, the difference between this ban is that it actually gives a 90-day warning that they can only not come to that specific park. The old one was a little bit more vague and basically just said that they couldn't come to any of the parks for an ungiven amount of time, and so it didn't really pass through in the court system. This could keep violent criminals out of city parks, but it could also keep some homeless residents from having a safe place to sleep at night.
Forbidden behaviors such as selling drugs, fighting, and urinating in public are examples of what would be grounds for a trespass order. But annoyances such as sleeping in a public space could also lead to a ban, and for some homeless people, these parks are where they live.
What do you do? And if you figure you got another 100 or 200 people sleeping in parks around Gainesville, where are they going to go? Into other patches of woods and they'll get arrested and go to jail. I mean, they don't have any options.
While this discussion would apply to all city parks, commissioners have been accused of specifically targeting downtown's Bo Diddley Plaza.
The plaza recently reopened, and it's been typically known for a large homeless presence.
Commissioners on the Parks and Recreation Committee say that the city is trying to show compassion while also being reasonable. Police officers are being trained to deal with the homeless in a compassionate way with the assistance of social services.
I don't think it's fair to just turn our heads. I think those individuals truly need services, and I think it's fair to say that they've got the ability to make a discretion and a decision on where are some places that are appropriate for sleeping out overnight, but to sleep in the same place in the middle of the plaza as if it's your home, there's something about that that's just not right.
Warren says the city spent just under $800,000 last year to get a facility in place to provide services for homeless individuals, which offers them an alternative to the parks. She also says it's important to get everyone in the community on board.
The Parks and Recreation Committee has asked officers to provide certain information before bringing in the issue in front of the full commission. They've requested data on what type of offenses were included in previous trespass violations. This will help them determine whether there's a problem they need to really address.
All right, thank you, Joey. Now, we have a big roundup today of political names in the news, and we start with notes on the funeral of Nancy Reagan. She was buried today at the Reagan Presidential Library next to her husband, Ronald Reagan. First Lady Michelle Obama led representatives of 9 White House families. The Bush family sent a split-generation duo, Laura Bush and her father-in-law. 2 themes were expressed in her strength of will and her love for her husband. Yesterday, Connor and I brought you the news on the road from Coral Gables as the University of Miami hosted the last GOP debate before critical primaries in Florida and Ohio. That gave us the opportunity to witness the debate after talking to Miami residents about their key issues. For many of them, the GOP debate glossed over one issue in particular.
Question you ought to be asking.
Candidates focused less on put-downs and insults at Thursday night's debate in Miami. They gave serious answers on immigration, terrorism, and the economy, but several people we talked to still want more answers on the environment.
I've lived in Miami for the last year and a half, and the rising sea levels, I think, are a big issue. There's a canal right by where I live that gets almost overflooded very often, and so I would love it if the Republican presidential candidates discussed how climate change will affect Florida in particular.
I would like them to specifically address climate change as it affects Miami in particular, because
with rising sea levels, the chance of this flooding is a big issue.
The Republican mayor of Miami, Tomas Pedro, raised the question of whether candidates plan to do anything about climate change. Marco Rubio said there is no law he could pass that would affect the weather. John Kasich also tackled that question, saying he does advocate for developing renewable energy. People tend to read into every response, which is why Google was there to monitor minute-by-minute fluctuations in national polls.
We'll take a look at Florida. See how we land. Trump is in the lead at 32%, and still a lot of people that are unsure, trying to decide where they might fall in this lineup.
After the Republicans' 12th debate, CNN says Trump now holds closer to 40% support in Florida, with his closest rival, Marco Rubio, at 26%. Absentee voting is well underway, and early voting ends tomorrow. Then it's time for Election Day on Tuesday. Donald Trump has another formal rival backing his bid for the Republican presidential nomination. Ben Carson endorsed Trump today. The mild-mannered Carson says he's come to terms with Trump. Carson says Trump has a brash side, which we all see on stage, and another side behind the scenes where he thinks everything through logically.
Well, last week there were reports Governor Rick Scott was about to endorse Donald Trump. He didn't, but Scott still got swept up in the Trump question of whether Muslims hate America. The governor took some heat for ducking the issue on MSNBC, but he told CNN some do, some don't, and spoke of attending the funeral of a reporter beheaded by ISIS. At the State House, some Democrats, while praising the new budget as bipartisan, snuck in their own political attacks on Governor Scott. They claim his management style was the biggest reason lawmakers rallied among themselves to set budget priorities.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Too long, the governor has seemed to govern by press release, with surprise vetoes, with vengeful vetoes.
Additional debate, Representative Pritchett in debate.
Not only is Rick Scott
the governor's hand will be this year with line item vetoes, but insiders say the current dynamic might tempt lawmakers to come back later to override some vetoes.
The regular legislative session ended after the budget passed today. Lawmakers agreed on a spending plan totaling $82.3 billion. That allows for increased spending on schools and for health care. Tax relief totals less than half the governor's proposal. And lawmakers zeroed out his bid for an extra $250 million in economic incentives.
It's been a nice day here in Gainesville, warm enough for us Floridians, but not too hot out.
Oh, definitely. The sun's been out. It's been a gorgeous day, like it has been in this entire week. WUFT's Amanda Hawley joins us now from the Weather Center. Amanda, will the warm temperatures continue for the baseball game tonight?
They are going to continue. In fact, they're actually going to get a little bit cooler before it does start. That first pitch is at 7 p.m. and the temperature is going to be right around 74 degrees. Partly cloudy skies will continue, and it'll be a little bit mild out there, but it's going to be a nice game. It's the first of 3 for this weekend here in Gainesville. Here's a live look over the University of Florida right now. You can see the overcast skies. Those are going to continue through the weekend as well, but the current temperature, 83 degrees here on campus. If you're heading out to the gymnastics game tonight, you can leave the jackets at home. It's also going to be mild, 67 by 10 o'clock, 62 by 2 a.m. We could have that patchy fog develop again on Saturday morning, but if you're up before, that's only if you're up before 7 a.m. Coming up, though, I do have the better day of the weekend to get outdoors, so you want to stay tuned for that. Back to you.
Thanks, Amanda. As it stands now, texting and driving in Florida is a secondary offense, so the driver has to be committing another offense before an officer can pull him or her over.
That's right. The law was passed in 2013, but has made it difficult for authorities to keep texting and driving culprits from repeating their actions. WUFT's Ashlyn Reese joins us live from the newsroom. And this isn't the only challenge for officers when it comes to applying the law. Ashlyn.
Well, here's the big challenge. People are allowed to change music and use GPS functions on their phones, making it difficult to determine if they were actually texting while driving. With anything less than a subpoena to check the phone, an officer has no proof that a driver was texting. But law enforcement may have some help from an unexpected ally to change the world of phones and cars.
The Florida texting and driving law may have been passed in 2013, but that has not eliminated the problem. Since the enactment of the law, the Gainesville Police Department has only handed out 49 texting citations and says it's because the law doesn't make it easy to identify lawbreakers.
So it becomes very difficult the way the law is currently written. I think our legislature can do a better job of, going back and revisiting that law and making it a little bit stronger.
Technology is being added to the newest models of cars in hopes of decreasing the texting and driving problem.
To whom should I send your message?
New models at Ford, Chevy, Nissan, and others may help law enforcement when it comes to texting.
You have the option to listen to it, call the person, or ignore the text. You can also use voice command to have it read it out loud to you.
Some other cars use Bluetooth capabilities to play phone calls through the speaker systems. Cars with Bluetooth capabilities like this one save the driver 4 to 10 seconds from having to find their phone and answer it. They simply push the button and they can continue to keep their attention on the road. Some new models even have apps built into their dash to keep drivers from looking down to control music or social media sites.
You have applications to control your music, you have available Facebook, you have available Pandora, just additional things to keep you away from your phone that are already integrated into the car.
That offers some small hope.
Technology got us here, and I think technology can get us out of here as well.
According to Tobias, sometimes officers can use the careless driving statute instead to ticket those who text while driving. The drivers can be charged with not using due care just for being on their cell phone while behind the wheel. Reporting from the newsroom, Ashlyn Reese, WUFT News.
Thank you, Ashlyn. And speaking of driving, in a lot of cities these days, you may notice a little light has been added above or below traffic signals. A viewer wrote to Find Out Florida asking what they're for. You ask, we report. So here are the answers from WUFT's Valir Thomas.
The small blue lights you might notice attached to traffic signals are a bit of a mystery to many people.
I would think it has to do with colorblind people, but I'm not sure because they have the different lights for the colorblind people, so that they have like the shapes for the colorblind people, I guess, the shaped lights.
What they really do is help police detect red light runners. Here on the corner of 34th Street and Archer Road are the examples of these blue lights. If you're thinking of running the red light, think again. The lights originally were white or clear, then they were converted to LEDs that have a blue hue. The technology allows officers to be sure which directions must stop or yield.
You know, basically with those confirmation lights is what we call them. Drivers don't have an excuse. It's a way for us, no matter where we are on the intersection, to prove that that light was in fact red.
Police say it improves safety for the public and for police officers. They can catch more red light runners this way, and they can wait in a spot where it's safer to pull out and catch up with a vehicle. Valir Thomas, WUFT News.
If you have a Find Out Florida question to send us, visit WUFT.org. You can click right on the front page section where you see the word Find Out Florida. Now, WUFT News First at 5 is just getting started. Coming up, adult coloring sessions are now being offered at different libraries throughout Alachua County.
Plus, what movies you need to look out for this weekend, those stories and more coming up after the break.
And temperatures are holding into the low 80s still at this hour here in North Florida, 82 degrees in Gainesville. They will quickly fall into the mid 70s by around 7 p.m. But coming up, I'm going to tell you about the better day of the weekend to get outdoors.